Hello and welcome to another episode of Sync. Today I have with me my guests, Sage Durrant and Naomi Katz, and we will be talking about the portfolio experience. So first question off bat for you two is how do you choose which projects to include in your portfolios?
I'll go first.
Okay.
So I think it depends on what type of portfolio you're making. So I have like more than one portfolio since I do both directing, writing, and production design. So for my directing reel, it's a lot more like refined, where I only have projects that I've both directed and I'm like very proud of. If it's an older project that I think my skill level is like past that, then I might not include it in my portfolio. But for production design, my portfolio is a lot more like expanded, I guess. I have like anything I've kind of worked on in any capacity, because you can kind of like showcase different parts of the film instead of like the whole film as a whole. Yeah.
This year was my first time producing, so I only have one movie for that sort of category, but I did production design last year for Naomi's film, which took up a lot of my production design reel. And I also PD'd a film called Subprime, directed by Keaton Browning in our year. And so those two were my main sort of like production design things that I included in my portfolio. And then I also directed a few things, personal projects, and then a Core One documentary. So I have like sort of three separate areas, but they're all sort of in one reel right now. And then I do a lot of hair and makeup, so I guess that's sort of it, but I include those in photos, not really in films, so.
That sounds really cool. And I want to kind of apologize, take it back, because I did forget to throw it to you guys to introduce yourselves a little bit and your background. So Naomi, if you could introduce yourself and your background as well.
Yeah, so I'm Naomi, and I'm a director-writer at Sheridan College. I'm about to graduate this year. And so far, I've been like really lucky that I've gotten to direct in Core 1, Core 2, and in Portfolio. So in Core 1, I did a documentary called A Little Love. In Core 2, I did a film called Skin Deep. And then just wrapping up, like what's playing back there is The Girl in the Bush by the Woodsman's House, which is my thesis film. And yeah, I was the writer and director for all of those. And then outside of those, I do a lot of production design work. So I've production designed one of Sage's documentaries, and I've production designed a few other things outside of school.
I'm Sage. I'm a producer, production designer, kind of director-ish. I worked on this film this year, The Girl in the Bush by the Woodsman's House. I produced it for Naomi. And then last year, I production designed Skin Deep, which was Naomi's Core 2 film. And then in Core 1, I directed my own called The Sketchly Experience, which was about my old high school. So that was a really cool experience, but directing is not really my lane that I'm sticking with. But we've worked together a lot, and we'll continue to do so past school as well. So,
Do you guys enjoy the projects that you make in these courses and your cores?
Yeah, I love all of the projects that I've worked on. I feel like that's a really big kind of mindset thing that's important to like keep in mind in our school, is like just being grateful for every project that we get to work on instead of looking at it as work. I feel like I look at it as like an opportunity. So I've like even the ones that I think I have improved my skill set since, and I might not put it in my portfolio, I still really love them because they taught me what I need to know to get to where I am now.
I loved working on everybody's student films. I don't know if I'm gonna stick for film outside of school, like after we graduate, but I really appreciated the experiences, the people that I met, the projects I got to work on. I'm very lucky to have been included on all these projects that I helped out on. But yeah, I think that the main thing for me was just meeting the people. I met some of my best friends on sets and have really developed our relationships on sets as well. So it's been a really good experience. So I have enjoyed working.
So Naomi, you said something about projects that you might not put on your portfolio. So what makes a project what do you think makes you not want to put that project piece on your portfolio?
I think kind of like if I think as an employer, if they were to watch it and think like, oh, this is her skill set level, then if my skill set level is past that at this point, then I probably wouldn't include it. Like, there's films that I've written back in first and second year where I know that my writing style is a lot different now. I know that I've refined my writing style a lot better now. And so even though I think the film is still good, I don't think it reflects my capabilities as much anymore, so I probably wouldn't include it in my portfolio. I'd rather use that time to showcase things that are more recent that show kind of what I'm doing now.
Sage, do you agree with that kind of mindset?
Yeah. I think a lot of my earlier works were definitely keep them off the internet kind of vibes. So yeah, when I started out with film, I definitely had a lot of growing and learning to do, and I still definitely do. But those sort of moments where it was sort of a learning process and I didn't quite get it right, those things I would leave out because that's not my skill level anymore. Thank God. So yeah, I think it really just has to do with how proud I am of the work and how much I want other people to see it.
Okay. Sage, so this question is for both, but I'm just going to start off Sage. So what challenges do you face when you are like creating a piece or creating up a portfolio?
I think that it's really, I'm a very tough critic on myself. I think everybody sort of in some way speaks the same, but I think that the hardest part for me is convincing myself that it's worth it. I think a lot of art for me has been just really trying to see if this is the right path and if I'm willing to sacrifice things. In the end, I think it was all worth it, but that was definitely the hardest challenge, was getting over that initial hill of like, I don't know if this is actually going to be and like who I am at the end. Like, do I even try? And then I do try, and I'm very happy with the outcome. But that initial sort of conflicting feeling is definitely the hardest part about figuring out what I want to make and what I want to do and what I want to include when people are sort of seeing me as an artist. So,
yeah, I feel like for me, I think a lot of artists really struggle with self-doubt and like just being confident that people are going to like your work. And so for me, one of the biggest struggles that I have when making my portfolio is like, I'll love the film until I go to editing my reel, and then the second I'm looking at it with that lens, I'm like, none of this is usable, this is all horrible, I should just scrap it all. Which is not true, and we all know it's not true, but like when you're editing, it can really, like you get the nerves and you're like, you start micro-analyzing everything that you've ever worked on, and you're like, you see all of the issues with it and you don't want to use it. So I think just being able to get over that hurdle and kind of like take your ego out of it and just be like, whatever, I'm just going to put it in and see if people like it. That's definitely the best way to kind of overcome that kind of self-confidence struggle with making a portfolio.
So like when you think about the word portfolio, like in general, what does that kind of mean to you? Like how do you feel when you hear, oh yeah, can you bring your portfolio? Can you send it in?
I think it's like a showcase of kind of who you are as an artist and what you've done and what you are doing.
When someone asks to see mine, it's kind of like a slap to the face, like a get it together kind of moment. But at the end, when things do work out, it feels really good. And yeah, same thing, editing your portfolio and your reel. It's very disappointing at times, or it feels like it is. But then when you really have it all together and you add music and you know, put the shots in the right order, it ends up being okay. But yeah, sitting down to do it is the hardest part.
That does sound like, you know, always taking the time to like kind of see your work over and over again. That part can kind of get into your head a lot. So my other question would be like, how would you continue to improve your portfolio when you see like your past work and you're like, I don't want to look at this anymore, and you have something better? Like, how would you keep adding to that?
I think the most important thing is just to keep creating. I think a lot of the times we can get scared to make something because we're scared of failing. But I think the biggest way to fail is to just not make anything at all. And so I think like specifically in our program, we're given the opportunity to make a lot of projects, but sometimes you aren't given the opportunities that you wanted. Like maybe your film isn't picked if you want to be a director, or maybe the thing you wanted to production design is being done by someone else, or there's always kind of like these hurdles of like, oh, I wanted to make something, but now I can't. And so I think the most important thing is to just make it anyways. Like if you aren't given the opportunity in school, then make it outside of school. Or if you like really want to production design something but there's nobody making any films right now, maybe make some art like outside of film that you can put in your portfolio. I think just always trying to create things, even when you don't feel like there's an opportunity there, is the way to build a portfolio that will in the future give you those opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And with our school and our courses, it's been really helpful to have other classes that ask you to make films for those as well. So yeah, like I produced a portfolio project, but in my virtual production class that I'm taking right now, I get to direct something, which has been really nice, because other classes, they could just be like sit-down textbook classes, but we also have those hands-on ones where we are allowed to write a story, or we are allowed to, you know, create something that doesn't have to be a full project. It can just be like a group assignment, but it still feels really good to finally like do something else that and not be locked down to one area. So I definitely agree. Just trying to get on as many projects as possible really helps you kind of really deepen your skill set and helps you figure out who you are as well and what you enjoy doing.
Would you look at your first year, like when you were in your first year program, the portfolio you had then compared to the portfolio you have now? Like when you compare those two, what do you think the strengths and weaknesses are between like the both?
Well,
sorry, that was a bit long.
I started school during COVID, so my portfolio before now was kind of like non-existent. It was when we were able to make films, everybody was wearing masks, so you couldn't see the emotion on their face, which as a director does not make for a great portfolio. Mm-hmm. And then yeah, in high school, I didn't have access to the same resources and stuff that I have now that I'm in college, with like the cameras and the microphones and all that kind of stuff. So you could see my creativity in it, and I think that's never changed. I think the core of who I am still showed through my portfolio, but definitely access to resources and access to like a formal education has changed the quality level of all of the work for sure.
I think me as well. I was lucky to go to a high school that had arts programs specifically for media arts, so film and photography and graphic design. So I've been sort of immersed in that area since grade 10. But so going into first year, I did have all the films I made to get into schools, and I did have all the films I made in like my first classes in high school, so grade 10, like just the media arts fundamental sort of classes. I have all those projects still, because in my last year of school, we were completely locked down in COVID, so I didn't get to do many in grade 12. But yeah, I had a few, but you could definitely tell that I didn't know anything about anything, but was kind of acting like I did. And now I think I've sort of gotten into the habit of being able to like sort of produce something that's actually like kind of worth watching and will make sense. At first it was kind of all over the place and bad, and now it's better. So yeah, I think that's sort of how I envisioned my first year, was just acting like I knew things when I didn't.
Yeah. So then what would your advice be for like first year BFT students that are trying to start and make their own portfolios? What would your advice be to them?
My advice would be to just keep making things, and to not just make things in school, but to make things outside of school as well. I think a lot of the films that I'm the most proud of, that I've had the opportunity to work on, are not stuff that had anything to do with a project or anything to do with school. It's stuff that a friend would come up to me and be like, I had this crazy idea and I want to film it tomorrow. And I'd be like, okay, I guess we're filming that tomorrow. And I think that those are like sometimes the best projects, because I think those projects come out of a place of like, you need to make this. Like it's in you, and you just want other people to see it now. And I think that those films often end up being a lot better than the ones that are made out of a place of like, oh, my teacher asked me to make a project and now I gotta think of something, you know? So I think my biggest advice for first years would definitely be find something that you're passionate about and make a movie about it. Just go and make it.
I think like get on as many sets as possible is kind of like a starting point. Meet the people in the upper years, don't be afraid of them. Meet the people in your year, really connect with people, figure out who you want to work with and, you know, whose ideas you enjoy listening to, people's work you enjoy watching. I think my issue in first year was that I didn't branch out enough. I sort of kept myself to the same people, Naomi being one of them, so it worked out in the end. But I sort of regret not going to the upper years and talking to more people and really getting to know them as students and as friends. I think that they definitely have the same kind of advice that we have right now, but would be able to give that to me in first year, so I kind of wish somebody did that for me. Or at least I kind of went out of my shell enough for people to do that for me.
It's good that you mentioned like connecting a lot with your peers, because they can help you a lot of the times and the things that you end up making. Because you said that Sage helped you with your film, The Girl in the Bush, and both of you guys worked on that one. So how was it actually working on that piece together?
That one was amazing. Sage was one of the first people that I asked when I first thought of the idea. I immediately was like, work with me. And I was like, you don't have a choice, you don't have an option, you're working with me because I like working with you. And the crazy thing is I actually originally, I think, asked you to do production design. And then I guess you can go into explaining like why you chose to produce instead.
Yeah, we have a friend named McGill, shout out, love McGill, but she's my co-producer for this film. And we thought it would be really useful to have two producers, A, because McGill is directing her own portfolio film, so she's extremely busy with that as well. They went to Spain. And B, because we had a pretty big cast, and they were all kids except for one, and we had multiple locations, and we were also using the virtual production studio, so there's a lot of stuff to get done, a lot of paperwork, a lot of locations issues, like everything like that. So it's been really nice that Miguel and I have been able to divide the work and really get everything done to our fullest abilities instead of sort of one person doing it and only working half as hard because they have to spread their work amongst everything. But our experience with this film has been really positive and very happy with the end product. So.
I feel like it's really nice working with someone that you know so well, because I feel like first of all there's a certain level of trust that you kind of need to have between a director and a producer of we both need to know you're gonna get your stuff done. And so if you already have an established relationship with that person, then that's very helpful. And the other thing is I feel like we kind of can this sounds so weird, but speak the same language. I feel like a lot of the times my biggest struggle on sets is finding a way to communicate with my crew members in a way that everybody understands what each other means. But I feel like when working with Sage or when working with my other closer friends, I'll say it and they just automatically know what I mean because we're speaking the same language.
And it's been really nice because every key person on this film, we're all sort of really good friends, really in the same circle. We hang out outside of school, so we've spent the past 4 years together, and so now when we make a film it sort of runs really nicely because we all just sort of build off of each other as opposed to conflicting ideas or trying to take over one spot from another person because you want it one way. We all sort of have the same mindset and it just runs really nicely and smoothly, so it's been a pleasure to work on this movie.
So then, when working on this piece, you guys seem really proud of it, and it sounds amazing. So would you consider using this piece as a heavy part of your portfolio going forward?
Yeah, I think this isn't just for our film, but all the films that were made in fourth year. They call the fourth year class portfolio because these are kind of meant to be your portfolio films, the thing that you would show to get a job. So I definitely think when I wrote this one, that was actually one of the biggest things that I had to keep in mind was making sure that this could be a portfolio piece, not just for myself as a director, but also for every other crew member. So I made sure that there was elaborate production design so the production design team could use it. I made sure that there was a big soundscape that we needed so that the sound people could use it. I made sure that there was some cool shots that I had envisioned so that all the camera people can use it in their portfolio because I think this film can really be used by anyone on the crew to kind of showcase their work, which is good.
Yeah. I agree. I definitely think just because of our class and, you know, what the standards are for everybody's films, that everybody was able to create something that they were, or work on something that they were super proud of. It's the longest film we've made at school, I'd say, like, or as long as they'd let us make at school. So it's definitely, yeah, our biggest budget one and our longest and the biggest crew that we've ever had, and a really awesome cast. So I think it's a really great opportunity for everybody, and I'm really happy this was my first producing role because it's a really good start to that.
Do you guys think that this portfolio work would help with like your networking later on when you go off and like get into these job fields in your career paths? Like how do you think that would work for you?
I sure hope so. I am hoping that we can put this into some film festivals and meet people that way. I don't have much of a festival circuit experience, but I have a lot of friends who do, who I've seen their films go all over the US and all over to other countries. McGill was just in Spain yeah. with hers, and so I'm hoping that we can kind of have that same future with Woodsman. But yeah, I think that that's one of the best things about making these films is you get to meet so many other filmmakers from kind of all around.
Yeah, I definitely think that just because of what we did for this film and what everybody did in Portfolio for their own films, I think that it's a really good networking opportunity, especially because we use the virtual production wall, the LED wall in ours, that it's kind of like a really good talking point of like, it was small, but we made it work and it looks pretty good. So it's like for a student film, it was pretty advanced for us. So yeah, it's a really good conversation starter.
Yeah, it sounds like it is. So Sage, you mentioned that you kind of want to differ from what you're doing now going forward. So then how would you build up for the portfolio for the career you aspire towards that is kind of different from like the classes and courses and the things you're making currently?
Well, after school, my sort of dream career is event planning, specifically weddings and like birthdays and corporate events kind of area. And I think that producing and production design really help with that just because of how it is. So although I do have a very extensive film background and no events under my belt, I think that running a film set and being able to budget for that and, you know, picking up all the necessary skills like Excel spreadsheeting and stuff like that, and for production design, you know, being able to make things look good and work on a budget. I think all those things sort of back up future in events for me. I think, yeah, when I was producing, I realized that I think I want to go into events just because I enjoyed sort of the day of making sure everything ran smoothly and having everything prepared. That part really, I enjoyed way more. Not that I don't like film, but I think I liked the sort of management side, which film is a very hard industry to get into, and I will always love it and be open to working in it, but I think events is more realistic for me, and I was able to transfer my skills, so.
You mentioned that film is very hard to get into, so my question would be, even with a stacked portfolio that you create, like here, is there still like a barrier towards getting into that industry? And what would that barrier be? Like, what do you think the reasons would be? You not breaking in as soon as you come out of like film school, uni, whatever, and then you can go first.
It definitely is a hard industry to get into. I think it's very different depending on what part of the industry you're trying to get into. So like my experience is going to be a lot different than like a sound recorder's experience or an editor's experience. But specifically speaking on directing, to get into, there's not really like a directing field. Like there's not really like the way that there's those unions for set deck or for camera or whatever. With directing, you kind of just need to do it. So outside of school, like the route I see a lot of people taking is either making an independent feature or working in commercials. And working in commercials, for me personally, is not the route I see myself taking. And so if I am to go the independent route, then you need to put a lot of faith in your writing, because you're going to be spending a lot of time writing and making these ideas, and they might not get picked up. Like, you might pitch a billion times and nobody's going to want to make it. And so you kind of just need to have a lot of faith that, like, eventually someone will want to invest in your film or invest in your series or whatever you're trying to make. And so the best way to go about that, I think, is making a lot of connections and making sure that you're just keep working. But it definitely, I agree with Sage that it's a difficult career to get into. And most people should hopefully have a backup plan. Like, I'm planning on working in a prop house while I'm writing, so that I'm not just starving while I wait like 10 years for a script to get picked up. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not that I'm like, I feel discouraged from going into film. My interest shifted this year, and before that I thought I was going to go into film and thought I was going to work on sets. And it's not that it being difficult was the thing that discouraged me. I just kind of, or turned me off of it. I just kind of found something else through film, which I'm very thankful for. And all school is good school. Very lucky to be educated and very happy to be in this program specifically, because it led me to where I actually wanted to go to, which I didn't think was going to happen. I didn't think I was going to switch my mind, but I did, and I'm happy about it. But yeah, I think that although film is a tough area to be very successful in, I think that everything is worth it, and putting that effort in. Although, like, if my opinions on my career didn't change, I definitely would go just head first and just try everything in film, and really just trying to get a foot in the door. But yeah, the hours are not my style because I like to sleep, and yeah, the traveling is not always for me, but if it was, I'd still stay in this program.
So then, I know, like, a lot of the times portfolios are just like this big thing that people kind of like stress about. Even myself, when I think of portfolio, I'm like, okay, you know, what to grasp at. So my question would be, like, when there are certain things in a portfolio, what would you exclude from a portfolio? Because I know lots of the time people are like, okay, I did this, so I should just add it all together and like give it to them to show my work. But what would you like say to someone that has a bunch of stuff in their portfolio, like, you should take this out because it's not going to help you?
I think that's a very individual, like, it's an individual basis. But I definitely think just if it's something that you don't think represents you, I wouldn't include it. Like, when I was doing a production design portfolio, there's certain films that I've like done costumes and production design for, but specifically costumes, where the costumes are fine and they work for the film that I made them for, but they don't really represent my style, and they don't really represent like the kind of work that I'm typically doing. So I'm probably not going to include that in my portfolio, because I think it would make me look like I'm trying to get a type of job that I'm not trying to get.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I just made my reel a couple days ago, and it was definitely stressful because I was just worried, you know, if I include this, I'm going to be seen as a different person. But if I include this shot of the same movie, that kind of explains who I am as an artist a little bit more and my capabilities. And I made both my roommates watch it through to make sure, and they were kind of like, "Oh, girl, don't put that one in." And so I would change it, and then in the end, I'd feel a lot better about it. So I think the criticism, the constructive criticism, is really good and very helpful, and also kind of, although it doesn't seem like it, will end up boosting your confidence, because when people sort of like help you out when you're sort of in your head, at the end you look back and you're like, damn, they didn't tell me to take everything out, like I must have been doing something right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's helpful, and it's very helpful living with people in film as well, because no matter what you do, they always want to help you out, and being friends with people in film, they're always there to work on anything. So yeah, helping each other out by looking at each other's portfolios is definitely a sort of staple in a film friendship.
So then, what would be a piece of advice like you would give to someone that you would have wanted to hear when like going over your portfolio?
Do you want to start?
Yeah, you go ahead.
A piece of advice that I would have wanted to hear. Well, I'll give you the advice that my roommate gave me yesterday when I was editing my reel. He told me, start with your name. Because I did not start with my name. And then he was like, what if somebody watches this and they don't watch the whole thing and they have no idea who you are and who made this movie? That was good advice. So
Yeah.
definitely have your name front and center, have your contact info, all of that.
I mean, I like this piece of advice, but it won't be for everybody. But my roommate told me that to try to edit it like a film, you know. Don't just slap them in a timeline and sort of, you know, put them wherever. He was sort of like, make sure they're sort of matching up so that it's easier to watch and sort of makes people feel better when they're watching it, as opposed to like, I'm watching somebody's reel or somebody's portfolio. It's more of like I'm watching somebody's films and somebody's art. So it's, I think that like, make sure it flows, choose good music, all of those sort of things of like, just make sure it represents you as an artist. You're not just one to throw clips on a timeline and call it a day. You got to make sure they sort of match up with each other and flow to a specific piece or, yeah, stuff like that.
I've been kind of wondering this like myself, and then we can answer first. But like, what is a film portfolio? Like, what kind of makes up a film portfolio? Like, if you send it to me, I'd be like, oh yeah, this is a film portfolio, thank you.
So the biggest thing is definitely having a demo reel. I think that that's an important asset to most film portfolios. And so that would just be a compilation kind of all of your best work or what you're proudest of or what represents you the best. And then what I have on mine is I have like the demo reel, but then I also have a section that just lists every film I've worked on and what my role was on that film. And then if it was a bigger, like a key role where I either directed, wrote it, production designed it, then I would also explain a bit about the film and my process on it, what I did on it. And then at the end I have like my contact information and that kind of stuff, just so that people can get in touch if they happen to like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same thing. Just I have the reel of everything, and I labeled everything in that as well, so that they can sort of match it up to my list of projects that I worked on, the year that it came out, even the production company and everything. So if I worked on, you know, my friend's film, and they have a specific company that they started, that I make sure to include either the name or the logo in some sorts. Just so that when people are looking at it, they're like, these weren't all solo projects that sort of just came from you, that you're able to work under somebody else's sort of like standards and everything, and that you're able to adapt based on who you're working with. I think that's really important as well. But yeah, the real part is just the best clips from the best movies that you've worked on, or the biggest roles that you had on each. And yeah, like I said, it's just a reflection of you as an artist, so to make it personable.
Oh, so like the real, I'm sorry, this whole time when you guys kept saying real, I was like, Instagram reel, like, is that what you guys were talking about? But like, so the reel is kind of something completely different.
Yeah.
Or if you could explain what that would be.
So it's basically like a video that's kind of like a compilation of clips from different movies that you've worked on. So if you are like a DOP, for example, and you do like filming, then it would be a bunch of shots that you got in different films, and usually it's a selection of just the ones that are the most impressive or the ones that you're the most proud of. And then same with like production design, it would be shots that you're proud of that really showcase the production design. It's a little bit different when you're a writer and a director, because with the DOP or the production design reels and stuff like that, you can use music and make it seem like a music video. It's really aesthetically pleasing to watch, whereas for a writer, it's a lot more of just like scenes in a row. So I'm sure Sage's is more entertaining than mine is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just kind of a way to show people what you do. You send it to employers and stuff so that they can get an idea of your style, your vibe.
Mm.
Yeah, it's like how photography portfolios are a series of images. Ours is a series of clips and scenes from everything that we've done. So it is a visual representation, but especially for directing and writing, you have to sort of include certain parts because nobody knows what they're saying, so nobody knows how you wrote it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so clips from this movie up here were included on both of ours, and
So
along with
this-
our core 1 and core 2.
This would be
stuff.
considered the reel or the portfolio?
This one's a trailer, but it is kind of similar to a reel in the
Okay.
sense that it's just like a bunch of clips kind of in a row.
Yeah.
Oh, that is very interesting. I did learn something new. Thank you. I really didn't know. But another question for you, Sage, because you did mention that, again, you're going a different path. So then what would your portfolio kind of be a collection of when you want to send that to event design, event planning companies?
I'm definitely going to have to change it from what it is right now because I do specify that it is a film reel in the one that I've made, but I guess the one that's for event planning would definitely be a mix of behind the scenes photos and clips and images, stills from the films I've worked on. So sort of to represent my production design background, I guess a thought process would help, like a sketchbook or, things that I've sort of put together. And then also stills representing what I made in sort of like a film environment. And then for producing behind the scenes photos of how the day sort of went and steps I took to stay organized and stuff. But I think a lot of it would definitely be me explaining to an employer what happened because the photos would not represent fully how I sort of handled situations. We had a few mistakes on Woodsman that we were able to fix, thank God, thank you. But yeah, there's a lot of it's problem solving, and stills will never sort of represent the issues because it kind of looked like everything went completely fine and this is how it turned out. But the process was a rocky road. So
How was the process actually to creating that? Was it like, you said it was fun, but like, other than being fun, like how was it?
Well, it started, I guess my process started a little bit earlier than everyone else's because I was also the writer, but it started kind of around March of last year is when I got the idea of it, and it was really based on like my friends and like my own life at the time. And so I thought of the idea, I started writing it, then I immediately reached out to Sage and Brandon and some other of my friends, and I was like, please help me make this. And they were like, okay. And so then we put together a pitch video that Sage stars in, and we submitted that because in our program, like, you make pitch videos and you have to pitch them all at the beginning of the year for fourth year. And then once it was selected, that's when it kind of went from an idea to holy crap, we need to actually do this. And so that's when we kind of started getting the gears turning, and there was a lot of meetings and a lot of designing stuff and trying things and then finding out it wasn't working and trying another thing and finding out that doesn't work and trying another thing until we finally got the product that you can kind of see now. Mm-hmm. Especially with the production design, there was a lot of trial and error because we did have to build a whole big fake forest, which nobody's ever done that. Like, none of us have ever done that before. And so that was a lot of trial and error, same with like using the VP studio.
yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely worth it. I feel like we learned a lot through all of the mistakes we made. We would learn and then be able to do something better the next time.
Yeah. I mean, when Naomi originally told me about it, I wasn't on as a producer. I was set as a production designer. And I sort of started stressing originally on how I'm going to build a fake forest. But then when I switched to being a producer, I was like, oh my God, how are we going to get the money to build a fake forest? So then it's all kind of like a group effort of making sure that everybody's on the same page and everybody knows, you know, what they need to get done and every deadline that needs to happen. And as a producer, you are kind of like a supervisor from the start to the end. There are supervisors specifically for each part of the process, like pre and production and post-production. But it's been like, having two producers has definitely been a lot easier to manage. And I'd say that Woodsman is a very ambitious project, and we had two different like on-site locations, and then we had the virtual production studio, and then the dates weren't working out, and then, you know, the casting wasn't going to work out originally, and then something else was happening, and now we have to find a narrator in post. But at the end of it, yeah, we figured it out, and yeah, it's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of figuring out what you're capable of and what you need to get somebody else to do, because it's just too much sometimes, or everybody sort of had their role and stuck really well to it, and now we have a great final film. So in the end, the stress and the phone calls and crying were all worth it.
I am kind of curious to hear like how you guys built the fake forest. So how was that, like, building it out?
So basically, there's a area of the school called the Virtual Production Studio, and it's like this big like screen wall. And so we had one guy, Andrew, who like on the computer made like a fake forest in Unreal Engine, kind of like how one would be made for like a video game or something. So he was off making that, and then at the same time as that, we had our production design team, mainly Marie and Haley, building out of like paper mache and out of cardboard and paint and fake leaves stuff. And just a billion different things, building these trees and the main prop, the bush. And so they used like, yeah, that was it. They used chicken wire to make the big shape, because the girl had to be able to like physically get in it, because she's supposed to be like in the bush. And so there was a chicken wire like enclosure that she made, and then she weaved fake leaves over the entire thing, and then fake poppies over the entire thing, and that was to make the bush. And then I had to make a floor plan, and I had to kind of like go back and forth talking between production design and camera to make an idea of like where would be the best place to put all of the trees and all of the props and everything, so that the shots all work. So it was a very collaborative process, because I've never really worked on a film like that where you're working with the camera team and the production team like at the same time. So this one was like definitely a new experience for that, where we were kind of like all having to like brainstorm and problem solve together. But yeah, the biggest thing that we didn't really think of going into it, and it ended up being like the most time consuming thing, was we had to cover the entire floor in dirt, so that the floor would look like a dirt floor, like it's outside. And doing that was fine. Like that took like 10 minutes. Yeah. It was cleaning it up after took a really long time.
There's still dirt in the
There's
studio.
still dirt there, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it for our side was budgeting to make sure that we could create a whole fake forest. And using the wall was a very new experience for everybody. I worked on a set the weekend before that also used the wall, and it was a very different one. All that was there was just a capsule, like a spaceship kind of capsule that they had built. So they're not pouring dirt on the floor, but they did put a lot of effort into that capsule, and it looked really great. But we had a very different narrative that we had to display, and we had our head lighting technician worked on that one as well, and within that week that we had to switch over to the next production, he was sort of messaging our DP being like, it's a lot smaller than you think, like we have to work with the space a little better, we got to cut out on something, or we got to fix something else, because that wall is very small. But yeah, it was a lot of figuring out how to get everything in, how to set everything up within that time frame, because we only had 8 hours each day and we only did 2 days. But it was a lot of hard work, and everybody put their all in, and we're very grateful for that. So
It sounds very chaotic, but a little bit like fun, like very.
It was very fun, especially because where else are we going to work on a virtual production wall in the next year or something. They're very expensive and they're very hard to get on a set with them. But they're the similar things that Star Trek, the new show, would use and stuff. Like it's an LED sort of, so a computer controls it and it lights up kind of similar to how a TV would, as opposed to like a green screen where you have to do it in post and it's all just,
and it's like not the same effect. And that sounds very cool, like that sounds very interesting. But my final question for you guys would be, what's kind of one piece you did this year that you're kind of proud to put in your portfolio?
I think it's definitely The Girl in the Bush by the Woodsman's House. That's the one that I've kind of neglected all of my other work to work on. So I think this one's definitely something I'm proud to put in my portfolio. I think as a director, something I was really scared to do before was direct ensemble casts. I would almost always write all of my movies to star 1 or 2 people max. I made one ensemble film earlier and it was not good. And so I was like, I'm never doing that again. And then I had this idea and I was like, I guess I'm doing it again. And it was like, honestly, like so amazing this time. I feel like all of the girls who acted in it had such good chemistry. Like they actually like were friends, like off of set. And so I think their chemistry and everything is like so evident when you watch it. So as a director, I think this is definitely the one for me.
See?
I also agree. I think this one, it's sort of more than I've ever done ever in my life. So I think that it went well, and also my role on it is something that I'm very proud of. It was my first time producing and we did it. So yeah, it's definitely a piece that I'm always gonna remember and always gonna be able to show people that I did. I'm very proud of it, and I'm very proud of Naomi for directing it.
And I'm proud of Sage for producing it.
Well, that was very fun, and listening to you guys both was actually, I learned a lot from this conversation. I came into this like not knowing what to expect from film portfolios, and you guys really gave a lot of insight on that kind of changed like how I see that. So like, would you have any final statements about like building up your portfolios, or just anything you want to get out there that you really think someone needs to hear about portfolios when in the film industry?
I would just say just keep making films. Just keep doing what you like doing. If you have an idea and you want it to be made, make it. It doesn't need to be high budget. Like some of the best things that I've worked on have been made with an iPhone, or made with like somebody's like just DSLR that they barely use and stuff like that. And so I think just keep making, and that's how you're going to get a good portfolio.
Yeah, work hard and you will be rewarded. Don't give up. Not like I'm doing. But yeah, it'll all come together in the end, and don't stress out too much when it hasn't even began to film yet.
Yeah,
Like,
because stress won't help.
stress will not help. It will drag you down. It will put you in the grave. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. And honestly, I mean, like, film was never really an industry I saw, like, I knew a lot went into it, but I thought it was a lot of behind the scenes, kind of. And I guess that's where you guys focus a lot, behind the scenes, more so than, like, in front of the camera and acting. So learning a lot will probably be helpful to a lot of people that don't know, and people that, are building up their film and portfolios that want to kind of be here and, like, go into industry and such. So thank you for that today. And yeah, I mean, maybe one more question. I don't know. One final question. I guess an overall final question would be like, what do you think your future plans would be in a very kind of short amount of time we have left?
I guess my future plans, I hope to one day direct a feature and write. That's kind of where I see my future going. For now, I'm going to be getting a job at a prop house and just working there while I keep writing and hopefully get to direct.
I want to plan some events and be awesome at it. So that's kind of where I want to go. Yeah.
What kind of events would you want to plan, like with
Like
this?
weddings.
Weddings?
Birthday parties. I'm not restricting myself from anything. An event is an event, so it's just sort of like the day of rush is the part that kind of is drawing me into that.
Would you be like part-time wedding photographer, part-time wedding planner since you have a media background?
Probably not.
No?
But I have a lot of friends that I would definitely hire onto these events, so.
Naomi being one?
Yeah.
I have no skills outside of directing, so I don't know if I can do that.
Yep. Unless
I'll be your
Naomi's getting
cheerleader.
married, then I can plan a
Ooh.
wedding.
Wait, no? Oh,
You're not getting married?
Next question.
it's kind of my final, so please answer. But, okay. So, I guess that is that. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for answering these questions. That was very fun and very entertaining.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So, we're not. But I think the film industry, if I was to go on a little ramble, being in film is just like really interesting. And what you guys are doing is very great work. And I salute you guys as a journalism student that just writes every day. So, thank you. Thank you so much. And that is the end of today's episode for Sync. I'm Izabel Mensah, your host, here with Sage Durrant and Naomi Katz. Thank you so much.